Okay guys, how are you doing? I hope you're doing well. I'm Moses from Learn Python. You're welcome. In this tutorial series, we are going to cover about Redux, which is a special tool or library for state management. As you ever know that we are doing full stack web development, whereby in the backend we are using Django, but in the front end we are using React. So this is going to be one of tutorial series whereby in front end we'll use Redux and reactjs. So we'll cover all important concepts in Redux like reducer, store, dispatch, and action. So before we proceed, let me give you a few description and a demo about Redux. To put some more emphasis, Redux is a special tool for state management. It helps us to create a globalized state or a global store whereby each component can access the data from our store. That's the whole point of Redux. Any component from any direction can access the data. Alright, let me show you something here. As you can see, this is our store. It contains the product list and a counter. So from any component we can access the product list, but also from any component we can access counter reducer. Let me take you back to the browser. To make this concept clear, I have created a simple calculator or a simple counter which increment or decrement based on action chosen by user. For example, once I click increment, you can see the value is increasing, okay? And once I come here, okay, row, you can see counter reducer, the value is 5, okay? Once I decrement, you can see the value is 3. So this is the whole point. We globalize the state of our application, okay? We don't store the data in component, okay? As we know that local data is stored in a specific component, but global data is stored in a state or a store with the help of Redux. I can still give you some more description to make this concept clear because sometimes Redux is a bit confusing for a beginner, especially in this popular JavaScript front-end web framework. Okay, as you can see here, I'm able to access the information of a product list. You can see here the first item is iPod wireless Bluetooth headphone. Okay, once I come here, okay, the first product, as you can see, okay, you can see the title of a product is, let me see, the product brand is Apple, okay, but once I check out the product name is iPod wireless Bluetooth. That's the whole point. So here I'm at home. Okay, I'm at the root of our application. Once I come here at home, you can see I'm still able to access the information of product list. I don't need to fetch it by using use effect. Okay, what I do is I access this product directly from the global state. I access the data directly from the store. Here, as you can see, these are the data, okay, which are locally stored in a component. Okay, so we can't access them from other component unless otherwise we pass them through props. And this is our API which we consume. as you can see here, the first product is iPod wireless Bluetooth headphone. Okay, let me show you in the background. So here I'm at the root of our application. Okay, once I open up my VS Code, okay, let me click at home. Let me click at app.js. Okay, so as I told you that so the path is a product. Okay, the component is home screen. Let me click home screen. So as you can see here, data is fetched by using use effect. Okay, and use state hooks. And what is fetched here is what is being displayed here. All right. What does this mean? This data, as you can see here, we have use state set product, which store the product name in products. So this information are locally stored in component, which is home screen.js. They cannot be accessed in products, or they cannot be accessed in home component. So let's check out the product list. First, let me come here in home. So you can see this path, which is this one. All right, guys. You can see the component is a product list. So once I come here in a product list, you can see I don't fetch information here. What I do is I use dispatch, use effect, and I use a selector to fetch information of product directly from the store. Okay, as you can see here, the name of product is product lists. And here, if you see from the state or from our store, these products are found at the product list reducer. Okay, so what I need here, once I come here in a specific component, and once we are using Redux as a tool for state management, and our data is at global state, what we need to do is we use dispatch, use effect, and use a selector. It is not necessary to use effect, but the two things you must use is use dispatch and use a selector. This is the same happening once we come at home. This is the path, and this is the component, which is home. Okay, once I come here at home, you can see I don't need to fetch the product. Okay, they are already fetched and stored at the global state. Once I need to do here, I use the dispatch, use effect, and I use a selector to select information from the store. Okay, so this is the whole concept about Redux. So never mind, you will cover all important concepts in Redux like store, reducer, action, and dispatch. Okay, before we proceed, it's better if you create a project. Okay, here you have two options. You can create a project from the scratch by using command npx create react app, then project name. I'm using React version 18.02. Okay, so if you're going to create a project from the scratch, that's the first option. You'll need to install these packages or these dependencies. Okay, but if you don't want to create a project from the scratch, you can clone my source code from my GitHub repository, then run the command npm install. Okay, after that you will run a command npm start to start your application. So you have two options. Either you create a project from the scratch, or you clone my source code from my GitHub repository, then run npm install, npm start, then we can start it together. So any option you choose will work for you. So it's up to you. After having all these packages in your project, now it's time to go and start the execution of our project, whereby we are going to create a counter by using Redux. After that, we'll fetch information from API by using Redux. Okay, after making installation of the packages I've told you in the previous session, or cloning my GitHub repository and running npm start by starting your application, I hope your application should look like this. Okay, no information. Okay, and now I'm here at app.js. Okay, so once I say hi, you can see the content is displaying on the browser. But before we start the technical implementation of Redux in React, let me give you some important concept. Okay, let me take you quickly through this important concept. First is Redux. Everybody know that Redux is a tool for state management. That's short and clear. What is store? Store holds the global state. Okay, so this is the store. It holds the global state. Okay. Another concept in Redux is action. Action describe what you want to do. Only that. Okay. Reducer, how your action transform the state. So this is the action, but the how is being done in Reducer. But dispatch is responsible for executing an action. Connecting these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 dots, we can say in short, action has type, okay, whether is increment or decrement. Then reducer has a switch and the how. So in a reducer has a switch case, okay, it is switch according to the action chosen by user. So if the action chosen by user is increment, reducer will increment, okay, will perform the increment. But if the action chosen by user is decrement, reducer will decrement. So in short, reducer has a switch. It is switch according to the action chosen by user, and it has the how, okay, to be done. Okay, and the dispatch execute the action. Alright, then all data modified by reducer is stored in a store that is a global state. So you have action, let's say increment. Okay, reducer knows how to increment. Okay, dispatch help to execute the action, which can be increment or decrement. Then the added number or the modified number is being saved at the global state. So that's is all how we connect these 5 dots: Redux, store, action, reducer, and dispatch. So here we go. Let's create a folder called Redux here on source. Okay. After that, inside this folder, let's create another folder called the counter Redux. Okay, then inside of this folder, let's create some files. So the first file is counter.actions. Another file is counter.action types. Another file is counter.reducer. Okay, so we have 3 files in counter Redux. So inside the Redux folder, let's create 2 files. The first file is root reducer and the second file is store. Another file is store.js. So here we go. The first thing we need to do is to declare the actions we want to perform. Okay. So as we are creating counter Redux, so we'll have 2 actions. The first action is increment and the second action is decrement. So open up action types, then let's declare our actions. So our action is increment and decrement. Once I take you back to the definition, as I told you that action has type, okay? It has type. Which type of action does user want to do? Does user want to log in? Does user want to log out? Does user want to create a post? Does user want to delete the post? So here we have 2 actions. In counter Redux, we have increment and decrement. That's clear. So after that, let's move to counter actions, okay? Counter.actions. So here in action, I can say these are the simple function which returns an action to be taken. Okay, so export const increment, okay. First of all, let me import increment and decrement. So let me import increment, okay, and an increment. From counter.actions type. Okay, after that, here I have export const increments increments so return type increment. Okay, another action is decrements, so it will return type decrement. Okay, so far so nice. We have action types, okay, and counter.actions. So these are the functions which returns a type of action. So after that, the next thing we are going to do is let's go to reducer. As I told you that reducer has a switch, okay? It is switch according to the action chosen by a user. Okay, so what I can do here, first of all, let me import this. So in counter.reducer, let me import. Then after, let me declare the initial state. Initial state is equal to 0. Then after, export const counter reducer is equal to state initial state, which is 0, and here we have action, the action type chosen by user. Okay, so once you come here, oh, excuse me guys. So once you come here in action, you can see it returns type, okay, whether it is type increment or type decrement. So in reducer, as I told you that reducer knows the how. It takes an action, then modify the state of a store. So here, what I can do is, let me do something like this. Let me say type comma payload is equal to action. Okay, then after switch. Okay, what do I switch? I switch the type of action chosen by user. So here I can say case. I can say case increment. If the case is increment, what I expect here is to return state plus 1. Okay, we know that the state is equal to 0. So once the case is decrement, what we need to do here is to return okay, state minus 1. Okay, then after default, we need to return state. All right, guys, so that is all about our counter reducer. It takes an action based on type. Okay, here we have constant action. Here we have action which returns either increment or decrement. Then after, reducer takes an action type. So if the action type is increment, it will take the state, then plus by 1. If the action type is increment, it will take the state, then minus by 1. So that's all about our counter reducer. So let me come here on root reducer. So here on the root reducer, what we need to do is to combine. We need to first import counter reducer. So here I can say import counter reducer. Okay. Import counter reducer. Then after, I need to import combine reducer. Okay, to make sure that all my reducer in this application, they are combined. Okay, so I can import, I think it is combine reducer from, I hope it is combine reducer from Redux, if I'm not mistaken. Okay. So import combine reducer from Redux. Then after, let me do something like this. Let me say let root reducer. Okay, so I think it's something like this. Okay, so here root reducer is equal to, okay, so I can say combine reducer, combine reducers, then inside here, let me say counter is equal to counter reducer. So that is my reducer. Okay, so after that, let me, okay, root reducer. The next thing I need to do here, okay, let me export. Let me do something like this. Export root reducer. Okay, let me come here in store. So here in store, I need to import some. First of all, I need to import root reducer. Import root reducer. Okay, after importing root reducer, I need to import thunk from, I think, Redux thunk. Then the next thing I need to do here, I need to import create store and apply middleware. So it is create store and apply middleware, okay, from Redux. The next thing I needed to import is I needed to import compose with DevTools. Compose with, okay, DevTools from Redux DevTools. Redux DevTools, think something like this, extension. Okay, I think it should be something like this. Then after, what I can do here, I can say let all middlewares is equal to thank. Then after, I can say let store. Okay, let store is equal to, let me say create store. Then inside the create store, let me path in counter reducer. Okay, no. Let me path in a root reducer. Okay, after pathing root reducer, let me use compose with DevTools. Okay, then after bracket, apply middleware, then bracket, okay, I think it should be something like this. Then after, let me export store. Let me export store. Control S to save the changes. Nothing is wrong. So the next thing is to make sure that this store is globally accessed from our application. So open up index.js. So the first thing we need to do here is to import a provider, which will help us to wrap our application with the store we have created. Provider. Then after here, we need to wrap our application or our app component with provider. So let me say here provider. Okay. After that, let me cut this and paste it inside here. After that, let me Control S to save the changes. Then let me come here. Okay. Okay, let me close this. Okay. So make sure you have installed this add-on called the Redux DevTools on your Google Chrome or Firefox browser. So right click and choose Redux DevTools, then to the right. Okay, let me see state. I think something is wrong. Let me try out to inspect here. Okay. There are some errors. Okay. Expected string. Uncaught error. Invalid. Okay, guys, you forgot to export your component with file define. Okay, so here, let me say store is equal to store. Okay, and here, let me import store. Let me Control S to save the changes. Okay. Once I come here, let me click on state and define it. Let me refresh. Let me come up here on the browser. I can see initial state is not defined. So let me come up here in a root initial state. So here it should be const. Control S to save the changes. Cannot resolve Redux dev tools extension. Now this is store.js. So let me come up here in store.js. Okay, here it should be all middlewares. All middlewares. So let me refresh here. So let's fix this error before we proceed. I think here there is something wrong. Here it should be React Redux. Okay. Okay, guys. Something like that. Once I Control S to save the changes, you can see that this error is no longer existing. Okay. That's it. And once we come here, I can you can see this is our counter and the value is 0. So let me expand this. Okay, let me put this here. Okay. So that's it. So the next thing we are going to do here is to create the increment button and the increment button. Okay, so the first thing, if you have not installed the React router, make sure you install it by npm I React router. So here I import browser router. Okay, let me import routes from React router DOM. Okay. Let me import browse router routes and route. Oh Jesus. So let me cut this. Excuse me, guys. Let me cut this. Go. Oh. So let me Control S to save the changes. Nothing is wrong. Oh, so let me close this. I don't need it anymore. Let me come up in app.js here. Then let me import this. And here, let me say React dot fragment. Okay. After that, here what I can do is let me say browse router. Okay. Then after, I can say routes. Okay. Then inside routes, I should be able to wrap all my routes of my React application. So here, let me say route. Should be something like this. It should contain the path of route and the element. So element should be here. Let me say this home screen. Let me Control S to save the changes, and here, okay. Here, let me create Okay, let me create a folder called the components. Inside this folder, let me create a file with name homescreen.js. Alright guys, after that React export export React functional component. So here let me say home page. Let me say this is home page. Then after, let me come here in app. Let me import home screen. Okay, thank you. So once I come up here on the browser, you can see home page. What's happening? Screen is not defined. Now it is defined. No worry. So here I can create another. In components, I can create another component. I can say this is home.js. Okay, this is React functional component export. Okay, here I can say this is home. Control S to save the changes. Then after, let me come up here. Okay, I can say I import home from components/home. Control S to save the changes. Then after, let me copy this. And let me say this is the path is home. And the element is home. Alright guys. After that, here let me put something something like this. Exactly. Okay guys. So let me copy this and I put here home. You can see we have two components. Okay, we have home page. I can say this should be home screen, but never mind. So inside the home, I want to create two buttons. First of all, I want to access the value of counter. Okay, you can see here the value of counter is 0. So let me access it in home screen component. So how do we do this? So here I'm at home screen component. So before we proceed, I would like to import. First, I would like to import use dispatch. Okay. First of all, let me import increments and increments. So let me import increments. Okay, and the decrements from no. Okay, from Redux, counter Redux, and I think these are from actions. Let me see here. Counter actions. Yes, we are good. Okay. So after that, at home screen. Okay, the next thing I needed to import. Use selector and use dispatch. Okay, so let me say import. Okay, use selector. Use dispatch. From where does I think it from. Okay, React Redux. I think they are from here. So after that, what I can do here in home screen, okay, I can say what is the next, guys? So let me say const, okay, const dispatch is equal to use dispatch. Okay. After that, what I should do here, let me see if there is anything wrong. Okay, we are good. The next thing I want to do here, let me assess the value of counter. So let me say const counter. Okay, const counter is equal to use selector. Okay, bracket state, then state dot counter should be something like this. Okay, nothing is wrong. Oh, let me try out console.log. Let me display the value of counter here. Can I see anything? You can see the value of counter is 0. So let me display the value of counter on our page here. So what I can do here, I can say the value of counter is counter. Okay, you can see the value of counter is 0. Okay, once I refresh, the value of counter is 0. So after that, let me create a two button for increment and decrementing. Okay, so let me create a div here. The class name is okay, so let me say the class name is raw. After that, let me create another div. Okay, the class name can say the class name is called md1, and inside the call md1, let me say I have button. Okay, so let me copy this and paste here. Okay, after that, let me Control S to save the changes. Here I have two buttons. So the first button, let me declare the class to be bit n primal. And here I can say increment. Okay. And another button here. Okay. So let me say this is the decrement. Okay. Decrement. Control S to save the changes. Okay. So no worry. Class law. Class call md. Let me say this call md2. No worry. Once I do something like this, you can see. Okay. Let me just put call md1. It's okay. So let me change this to be success. Control S to save the changes. You can see. Okay. After that, I can add another div here. I can add another division, and I can put the class name is equal to container fluid. Container fluid. Okay, let me cut this. Okay, so you can see here what I can do here. No need to add this div. Okay, no need to add this div. What I can do here, I can make this whole division container fluid. Container fluid. Alright. And I can add here empty. Let me put 5. Okay, margin top is equal to 5. So after that, so here on a click, this patch bracket, then increments. Control S to save the changes. Okay. So let me refresh. Once I click here, you can see we are able to increment the value. Okay. And once I come up here, you can see increment 10. Once I see the row, you can see counter is 10. And then once you can see the counter is 10. So let's decrement. So nothing is strange once it comes the issue of incrementing. Just paste this and change here the action from increment to decrement. Decrements. Okay. So if I do something like this, you can see what is happening. I can increment, but also I can decrement. Okay. Okay. So that's all about incrementing and decrementing. So I can increment, but also I can decrement. So the last thing we are going to cover is how we can actually fetch information from our API by using Redux and store them in our global store, in our global state, which is a store, and be able to access them in 2 different components, which is home screen component and a home component. So guys, let's proceed with fetching the information of product from API. Okay, so let's consume this API. Don't worry about the backend. I'll upload the whole source code, the front end, the backend. You probably think that why this man is not teaching the backend part. Okay, so the big intention of this tutorial was how we can consume the API and store the data at a global state. So create a folder. Okay, so let me close everything here. Okay, so here in Redux, create a folder named product Redux. Okay, product Redux. Okay, in short, the procedure are the same. So here, what I can do, I can create the first file is product.actions.js. Okay, another file is product.actiontypes.js. Another file is product reducer. Okay, so it is product.reducer.js. So what I can do here is the same as what I did in the previous part. So here in action.types, I can just copy this. Okay, here in action type, we'll have three action. The first thing is load, okay, load product request, load underscore product request. So that's our first action. Okay, another action, so let me copy this. Another action is load product success. So another action is load product fail. So that is. So after that, let's move to our actions. This is action types. So let's go in our actions. So here in our actions, the first thing is to import this. Okay, so here I can import. Okay, let me import from, okay, from, it should be action types. So let me import this. Also, let me import load product fail. So we import the action types from product.action types. After that, the next thing we need to do here, let me import Axios. Import Axios from Axios. After that, another thing we can do here, let me create const export const list product. Okay, so it is export const list products. So this is async function and it takes dispatch. Okay, so inside we have try and catch. So in try, what you want to do is we want to load the data from API. So what I can do here, I can say dispatch okay, dispatch, it has a type, then load product request. Okay, after that I can say const so it should be something like this. So this can be const data is equal to await. Okay, axios dot get. Okay, from our API, okay, we consume data from API. Then after dispatch, so the type is load data success, comma payload is equal to data. So catch, here there is error. So here dispatch, okay, say type is load data file and the payload is error. Okay, so this is the function which will help us to fetch some data from API. Okay, so after that, let's go in. First of all, here let me copy this. Okay, then after let me go here in product reducer, put something like this. So we know that reducer have switch. So first of all, let me create an initial state. So the initial state is products. Okay, empty product. Then after loading is equal to false. Then after error message is equal to empty. So here I can say what I can do is starting to switch based on user action. So let me say export. Okay, so let me say export const product list reducer, product list reducer. Okay, bracket, then state is equal to initial state, comma action. Okay, after that, let me say let. I can say here there is a type and here there is payload is equal to action. So we start to switch based on user action. So here I can say switch type. Okay, so here I can say case load data request. So this should return an object which states that, so first the state, then loading. Okay, loading is equal to true. So let me copy this. So here I can say case load product success. What I expect here is loading is equal to false, means data is already loaded, but products is equal to payload. Okay, so once the product, once we have failed to load the product, or once the request fail, can say once the request is failed, so what we expect here, I can say, is error message. Okay, there is error message, there is no loading. Should be something like that. But we have default case. As usual, we know that default case usually return a state. Okay, it returns a state. Should be something like this. I hope this is enough. So this is product list reducer. So we have our reducer, we have actions, we have action types, and here we have actions. Okay, actions. So let me come here in store first. Let me come here in root reducer and let me import product list reducer. Okay, okay, let me import it from product. Okay, and also let me include it here. I can say product. Can give it any name. Product list reducer. So after that, okay, something is wrong. Okay, so let me try out to refresh. We still have counter. Let me check if there is any error. There is no error. So product is equal to product list reducer. Okay. Okay, guys, after that, let me do something here. So we have included the product list reducer. We should be able to see it here. So we only see. Anyways, so this is our product list reducer. Let me come here in a product list reducer. Initial state. So the default should be okay, state chart. Can only see this. So root reducer. Okay, so let's proceed and I will see. So let me come up here. Okay, let me open home screen, and here in home screen, let me do something. First of all, let me try out to copy this, and here let me say this is products. Okay, then this should not be counter, so it should be product list. So let me copy this and paste it here. So let me say this is product list. Don't know what is going to happen. Okay, so let me say this is a product list. Then after, what I can do, let me try out, should be product list. Let me say console.log products. Control S to save the changes. Okay, once I come here, you can see loading false. So as it's stacking, I don't see the data, but somehow we can try out to change the browser. So let me come here in Firefox, increment. So let me click here. Okay, so here on Firefox, as you can see, okay, so here on Firefox, as you can see, this is our state. We have counter and we have product list. As here, root reducer, you can see we have product list, but I can change. I can give it any name, right, guys? So it's product list, and here you can see it is products. Okay, but once I highlight here, you can see it is let me okay, you can see, okay, product is empty. So before we proceed, you know, I was thinking why we can't okay, so here loading is false, okay, as a default, and the error is empty. So what is happening here, the default, the switch here, we have case load product request, we have case load product success, and we have case load product failure. So what is executing is this, okay, as you can see here, it's empty, false, and false. To prove, let me change here. Let me put here true. Control S to save the changes. Loading is true, right? So this is default case. So don't worry. So before we proceed, let me create something here inside of component. Let's create a new file called spinner.js. So inside Spinner, what I can do first, let me say this is functional. Okay. Then after, let me import. Okay, import. What should I import? I want to import image. Okay, which will show up once a user. Let me say Spinner image. Import from, okay, assets / spinners. Okay, I want I think it's 7.gif. Okay, So what I want here, let me call this, let me say image. Okay, let me put source is equal to spinner image alt, let me say loading, something like that. So let me come up here in home screen, and let me import spinner. Import spinner from spinner. Yes, that's true. Then let me include the spinner here. So let me include it here and see what's happening. Wow, it's looking nice. So the idea is, once we can't load the data, I want to show up this. Okay, it's loading. So what I can do here, guys, I can say let me do something here. Okay, can I access loading? Okay, loading. Let me copy and paste this, and say loading before doing anything. Okay, so on cons, can see loading is false. Okay, so what I can do here, I can say once loading is false, loading is equal to false. Okay, if loading is equal to false, display this. Okay, once loading is equal to false, display this. Else, let me say data is loaded. Data is loaded. Let me Control S to save the changes. So you can see the spinner show up because the loading is false. Okay. Let me comment this. Okay, let me comment this. So you can see it is showing that data is loading. Okay, so after that, what I can do here, let me first import product action. Let me import list products here in home screen. Okay, so it is in Redux, product Redux, and it's here in action. Then after, let me make sure you have imported use effect. So here I'm going to use effect. Okay, so here I can say dispatch, then I want this. Let me copy this function and dispatch it here. Okay, dispatch it here. And then after, I can do something like this. Okay, if you don't know how to use effect hook, please check out my previous video. Let me Control S to save the changes. Okay. You can see the data on the browser here. All right, guys. Okay. And once I come here, you can see we are able to see data. Okay, raw. You can see. All right, guys. So product list, products. So these are our product. So the next thing, let me see. Okay, loading is equal to false. Okay, if loading is equal to false, should show this data, else root action pros product reducer false. So once load the product success, the loading should be false. Okay. So here what I can do, I can say if loading is equal to true, means if it is if it is loading, show the spinner. You can see we can't see the spinner. Okay, so but if I come here in product reducer, no, in action, product reducer, so once I come here in action, if I change anything, like let me do something like this, Control S to save the changes, you can see it is showing that it is loading. So let me correct this, Control S to save the changes. Now it is a time to display the information of products on the browser. So what I want to display here is just the product name. So here, first of all, let me remove this. I don't want it. And here, this is a product list is equal to use selector state.product list. As you can see here, this is a product list. Yeah, what is this? What's happening? Okay, don't worry, guys. So this is how it looks like. So what I can do here, let me display the data loaded. So what I can do is, let me say products dot map bracket something like this. Then after, let me say return heading 1. Here let me say item. Okay, and here let me say item dot name. Control S to save the changes. Boom, now you can see we are able to see the product's name. Okay, let me refresh here. Okay, it should have key, no worry. So here I can put div. No, just let me do something. let me say key is equal to item dot, the key is, so the key is id underscore id, so key is item, Control S to save the changes, and once I come here and refresh, you can see I have no error. I can increment as I want. Okay, so this is all about Redux, React Redux. So this content, I can just display this content in home. As I told you, once the data is at the global state, we can access it anywhere. Okay, we can access it anywhere, ID, name, image, and so on. Okay, once data is, okay, no worry. Once data is at the global state, we can access it anywhere. So what I can do here, let me see. So guys, I want to display this product name in app. So what I can do, as I told you, that there is no need to fetch this data once again. What I need is I can copy this. Okay, let me open up home. So that is use effect. Another thing I can copy here, I can copy this, use selector, and use dispatch. Okay, the next thing I can copy is, can copy this, the spinner, loading spinner. Okay, I can paste it here. After that, let me remove this. The next thing I can copy is, I can just copy this. Okay, inside the home. Then after, what I can do here is I can copy this. After that, I can display. Okay, I can display the product. So here I can do something like this. Once I Control S to save the changes, you can see at home I'm able to display the product names. Okay, why? Because the data is stored at the global state. Okay, all information is accessed globally. There is no much need to stress. Okay, data is globally stored. Actually, this sum up the end of our long session about Redux in React. Okay, so I think the session was very enjoyable. To get some amazing video like this, don't forget to like, put comment, share, and subscribe. We'll keep on uploading some amazing video about web development, especially by using Django in the backend, Django REST API, Flask, and in the front end, we'll be using popular web framework, front end web framework like React, Angular, Vue.js. So put comment, I wanna know. Can you now differentiate this confusing concept? Now can you differentiate between store action, reduce, and dispatch? Okay, guys, I'm talking too much. Thank you. I hope to see you in the next session. Don't forget to subscribe. Bye. See you. See you, my good people.